Hello, you're watching Entertainment Week. Coming up on the show, we're joined by the star of the Oscar-nominated film Selma, David Oyelowo. Jessica Chastain on defying stereotypes in her new crime drama, A Most Violent Year. From Ramsay Street to the Palace, Jason Donovan tells us about his role in The King's Speech. And Johnny Depp on playing a crime-fighting English gent in Mordecai. First, let's catch up on all the week's entertainment news. There is flash photography coming up. Coronation Street actress Anne Kirkbride died following a short illness, aged 60. She played Deirdre Barlow for over 40 years alongside actor William Roach.
Even in the midst of shouting and crying, there would be a laugh. That's what she was about, Anna. She loved life.
Topshop lost its legal battle against Rihanna over the use of an unapproved image on a T-shirt. James Blunt branded the shadow culture minister Chris Bryant a classist gimp after he used the singer's privileged background as an example of a lack of diversity in the arts. An Israeli man's been arrested on suspicion of hacking into Madonna's computer and selling her unreleased songs online. She described the leak as a devastating and hurtful experience. And Bjork was the latest artist forced into rush releasing her new album after it was leaked 2 months ahead of schedule. Pharrell Williams shared a stage with Al Gore to announce a series of Live Earth concerts which will be held in every continent this June. And Oscar nominee Bradley Cooper is coming to London's West End in May with his Broadway hit The Elephant Man. Now, a defining moment in the civil rights movement has become the subject of one of the most talked about films of the awards season. Selma is the story of the epic marches through Alabama that led to equal voting rights in America. Although the film secured a Best Picture nomination at the Oscars, the Academy has drawn criticism for overlooking British actor David Oyelowo for his career-defining performance as Martin Luther King. We spoke to him ahead of those nominations.
There have been thousands of racially motivated murders.
We need your help. Dr. King, this thing's just gonna have to wait.
It cannot wait.
You got one big issue, I got 101.
Selma it is.
Here is the next great battle.
David, it's so lovely to see you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, this is a part of a lifetime, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's very rare that you are in a moment in your career where you absolutely know that this is going to be one of the highlights, no matter what comes beyond this moment. And, you know, I think for me, this is definitely the case with this role.
And a part that you heard about quite a few years ago, read the part, 7 years until you actually played it. How did that make you feel? Were you anxious? Was it stressful? Did you think about this role every day?
I did, actually, not least because when I first read it, my connection to it was a very spiritual one. I felt called to do it, and the reason I say that is because, you know, when I first read it, it was soon after moving to the States, and so I hadn't done any Hollywood films. I'm British, so, you know, playing Dr. King is not something I would even cast myself as doing at that stage. But because I just knew so deep in my spirit that this was something that was going to happen, that's where the journey began. And now, 7 years in, I didn't know it was going to take that long. It's just so gratifying that it actually happened.
So when you got the part, apart from being hugely elated, I think relief that that period of uncertainty was over.
Not just relief, but also just I've been in awe at the timing of the film because, you know, like I said, I first read it in 2007. I was actually cast in 2010 by the director who was attached at the time, Lee Daniels, and then we still couldn't get the film off the ground. But in the intervening time since first reading it and now, I did films like Lincoln, The Butler, The Help, and Red Tails as well, all of which chart 150 years of what it is to be black in America. And as someone who's not from that culture, it all went into this film and playing Dr. King. And then you think of what's been going on in America recently in terms of race relations and renewed protests. And, you know, there's just feels like there's something divine in terms of the timing of it all. Yeah,
I mean, it does feel so timely with the events over in America. I mean, how difficult has that made it, or how pertinent?
It hasn't made it difficult. In some ways, it's a shame that Selma feels not like a historical drama, almost feels like it's ripped from the headlines, but this actually happened 50 years ago. The thing that I'm very gratified about is that, you know, we set out to make a film that feels relevant, that feels immediate, that is propulsive in terms of the filmmaking, and we wrapped the film on the 3rd of July. Michael Brown was murdered on the 9th of August. The Eric Garner situation has happened more recently, and you know, we've seen the protests as well going on. So a lot of things have happened since shooting the film that have made it feel more relevant, but we set out to make a film that feels relevant anyway. So it's almost like the film and the time it was made for are sort of meeting in the middle.
And at the premiere, you all wore "I Can't Breathe" T-shirts to protest against the death of Eric Garner. And that's quite rare that a film's cast and crew would stand up like that and make a statement. It's quite a bold move in some ways. Did you feel that?
Yes, but you know, in many ways, having spent time looking at Dr. King and that movement and what they did at the time they did it, you know, one of the things that I have been so inspired by is Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, Nina Simone, Sammy Davis Jr. These were all people who were incredible entertainers, but they were socially engaged in terms of what was going on in their day, and I do think there's been a degree of apathy generally, both the public in general and performers who, you know, whether it's wrong or right, you are given a bit of a platform, and I think if you have something meaningful to say, use the platform to do that, and I think that, you know, that gesture was part of that, really.
And does it depress you that you're having to make gestures like this and that race relations are still such a massive issue here, particularly in the States at the moment?
Well, yeah, it is disheartening, but having said that, there are very clear, discernible evidences of huge change. You know, I mean, of course, Barack Obama symbolizes that. Oprah Winfrey, who is a producer on the film and is in the movie as well, and is one of the main reasons this film got made, is evidence of that. Ava DuVernay, you know, the first black woman to be nominated for a Golden Globe and has done incredible work on this film, I think, you know, is evidence of how things have changed as well. But, you know, one of the reasons I'm so glad Selma exists as a film is I think that we could, and especially young people could think that the world we're currently living in is one in which there's this new thing, there's this new racial tension, and here we are protesting. It's not a new thing. You know, it happened 50 years ago. The difference back then is you had leadership and you had, you know, people who were able to articulate the needs of people, you know, being a voice to the voiceless in the corridors of power. And, you know, as is seen in Selma, that brought about change relatively quickly. You know, the Selma campaign was from January to March of 1965. The law had changed by August of 1965. My hope is that the film is evidence of and inspiration to bring about change now.
As we've been talking about, race relations is an issue over in the States at the moment. It's here. It's also an issue in Hollywood. Chris Rock recently wrote an essay saying that Hollywood is a white industry. I mean, do you think that's fair? Is that something that you've experienced?
I think, look, part of the reason Selma took so long to make is because up until recently, the idea of black protagonists in the center of their own narrative in terms of films of this nature, historical films, they've mostly been told through the eyes of white characters. It isn't until films like The Butler and 12 Years a Slave came along and did very well critically and at the box office that, you know, we're seeing a little bit of a sea change. I know for a fact that Selma was a beneficiary of those two films doing what they did. I think the truth of the matter is that we all want to see ourselves in movies, and if the people who have green light power or a certain section of society, that's what you see on screen. It's a reflection of the people who have the power to say yes. And so I just think we just need to diversify that.
Because it seems quite unbelievable that this story, Martin Luther King's story, hasn't been told more prominently in Hollywood before. I mean, what luck for you.
I know, you know, there's a part of me that's very annoyed at the fact that it's taken so long. There's a part of me that's very relieved because it probably wouldn't have been me if it had happened sooner. So, so yeah, it is kind of crazy, but I'm so happy that it's happened now, and I truly feel like, you know, we have given the world a film that doesn't just accentuate his reputation as an icon, but shows you the man behind the historical figure. And like I say, we go to the movies to see ourselves. If we can see a little piece of ourselves in Dr. King, I think that can only be a good thing.
Lots of awards season buzz around this. How important is that to you? How exciting is it?
It's definitely exciting. Important, well, you know, it does bring attention to the film. It does make people want to see the film. So from that point of view, it's significant and fantastic. Also, as an actor, it's a very subjective profession. You tend to not really know that you're a good actor unless people tell you. Fantastic.
Well, good luck with it all. Thank you so much for joining us, David. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And it's been a busy time for David. He also stars in the crime drama A Most Violent Year. His co-star Jessica Chastain earned a Golden Globe nomination for her role as one half of a couple drawn into the underworld of 80s New York. She spoke to Sky's Hannah Stott.
My husband is not my father. Not even close. So if I were you, I would start treating us with a little more respect, or I guarantee he will make it his mission in life to ruin you.
What I really like about this film is it's the anti-gangster morality tale. I mean, even though it being called A Most Violent Year, even looking at like the look of the film, Oscar, of course, is reminiscent of Al Pacino in The Godfather, just by the way he looks. And he's playing, you know, an immigrant coming to the United States and trying to be successful, to have the American dream. The thing that I like the most, to me, is that the wife character is more than a wife. She's, in my opinion, she's like Dick Cheney. She, in the partnership, she allows her husband to be the face of the organization, and she does some underhanded things on the side while keeping him ignorant to it.
Let's talk about you getting Oscar Isaac this role, because you pretty much worked as his agent. Did you get a cut? I hope you did.
No. Well, to be honest, I feel like I did JC a great service, especially after seeing being on set and seeing Oscar's performance. He's so good in this, and he and I went to college together. We've known each other for over 13 years. This was a situation where it just was so, it was perfectly laid out. Originally it was going to be another actor, and when that actor fell through, I said to JC, you know, I know someone who is really right for this part.
Just quickly about the Oscars, you had 4 big films out, all critically acclaimed, great films. Do you feel any sense of disappointment for not getting a nomination this time around?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, Interstellar, I think, got 5 nominations. I'm not sure. I'm very proud of that film. A Most Violent Year is, I've gotten nominated for Golden Globe, and it's on like all the, you know, the best critics lists, and it's really exciting. It's one of the best reviewed films in the United States, which is pretty great because it's an incredible season. So no, I mean, to me, that whole thing, it's a formula I don't understand, but I've had a really incredible few years, and at the end of the day, to be in a film like this with my friend Oscar, with a filmmaker, JC, who I know is going to have the longest, most beautiful career, and the film turned out great, I'm happy.
And coming up is Johnny out of his depth. We'll be reviewing the comedy caper Mordecai. years ago, The King's Speech dominated the awards season and became the most successful independent British film ever at the UK box office. But it was originally written as a play, and this year it's being brought back to the stage to tour the UK. Taking up the roles of King George and his speech therapist Lionel Logue are Raymond Coulthard and Jason Donovan, who join me now. Great to see you both.
You too.
Now, this was such a phenomenal success on screen. Is there massive amounts of pressure now, Jason, for you to do well in this play?
I guess I feel pressure with anything you do, particularly when it's, you know, it has such a great history like this piece does. But, you know, I'd apply, you know, the effort I would into something like this as I would into any piece of work I do, and, you know, try and give it 100%. You know, I mean, I guess I'm quite lucky with this role in the sense that he's an Australian, so that's a
you don't have
good
to
place.
Do the accents.
Yeah, I mean, if they start criticising me about my accent, then I'm going to have something to say about that.
And what are the advantages of telling a story like this on stage as opposed to on film?
Well, I think that the piece started life as a play, didn't it? In fact, I hear that David Seidler, who was the original writer of the piece, and actually I believe won the Academy Award for the screenplay, wrote to the Queen Mother before putting the piece together, and she refused his invitation to have it written. But of course, since she'd passed, it then became a script. You know, I think it reads so well as a play. You know,
well, interestingly, I think with the film, I think they changed it quite considerably from the play. So it is people coming to see it who have seen the film, I think, are seeing something very different, which is good. I think there's a big political backdrop to the play, which was sort of hinted at in the film, but inevitably, I think, because of the nature of film, I think they concentrated more on those sort of small domestic scenes.
Jason, you've done loads of theatre over the last few years. Is that where you now feel most at home?
I seem to age well with theatre. That's. I don't know. I don't know.
He's aged very well. Come on.
It's chosen me. It's not necessarily been the course that I've thought about, you know, and particularly musicals. I mean, this is a sort of a break from that for me, and I'm really welcoming that with open arms. I love the musicals, but my background is really sort of in acting, and I feel most comfortable as an actor. But yeah, no, I think we're excited about this piece. I think it's time for it, you know, and I think it's a very historic piece. I think it has an educational aspect to it. I think it's great entertainment, you know, and I think it's going to be a success.
And that's true, though. I think there has been long enough now since the film, and of course a production was done of it, a theatre production, and I think there's been enough time to revisit it, actually. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Jason, I can't let you go without asking, 30 years of Neighbours this year, is there anything that could be done to tempt you back?
No. I get asked this a lot. I'm very proud of Neighbours, and there is not a day goes by in my life that I don't really refer back to it.
Or someone asks you about it.
Someone asks me about it, and that's cool. I get that. But, you know, in terms of going back, it's sort of, you know, that was then. I think if everybody went back, it would probably make it interesting, but you can't have sort of, you know, pieces.
Enough's enough.
Yeah, enough's enough.
Thank you both so much. Tell us, when does the play start and where?
The 5th of February is opening night in Chichester.
Amazing. Good luck with it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
Time to see what's on at the cinema this weekend, and there's yet another quirky character from Johnny Depp.
I am Lord Charlie Mordecai, respected by all who know me slightly.
Excellent shot, sir!
Man down! I am an art dealer, an aficionado. My wife, Joanna, my only true love.
I thought I'd see how you secret agent men run the world.
I'm afraid I shall have to put my foot down, darling.
Sorry?
With your permission, of course.
And our film critic Joe joins me now. Joe, so one review I've read is poster awful, premise awful, quite a lot is awful about this film. Ooh,
there is,
can't be that bad.
There is a lot awful in this film, but it's not all awful. I think that's probably going slightly too far. I mean, it's very much sort of a substandard carry-on movie. You know, this is Johnny Depp's baby, really, in many respects. And it's clear he relishes playing the sort of the cad, the bounder, the moustache-twirling sort of aristocratic idiot. And, you know, when you think back to his last performance in Transcendence, where he literally was dead behind the eyes, at least he looks vaguely half alive in this movie.
He's made some such strange choices, though, hasn't
Very
he?
strange choices, but I think there will potentially be a market for this. I mean, it is that kind of sort of 1970s, you know, if you find accents funny and sexual innuendo funny and all that kind of stuff, oh, you're sitting on my bonnet and, you know, all this kind of stuff, it's the film for you. And, you know, when I spoke to Johnny Depp, I did sort of say, you know, it seems to have lots of British influences from the 1970s.
I didn't go back and watch any of those films for fear of, you know, gleaning some personality trait that you really shouldn't have for this character. So they were based on my memories, really, of those films and those incredible kind of caper films that existed back then and were cool. And that's what this is.
He's not the most animated I've ever seen him in that interview.
Well, I actually walked into that room in a haze of e-vape cigarette smoke, whatever that vaping stuff is. So, yeah, he's a chilled out kind of guy. He still pulls off the sunglasses, doesn't he?
Ex Machina is next. So this is Oscar Isaac's Alicia Vikander, who we had on for Testament of Youth, and we fell out massively about. And I haven't seen this one, so I can't disagree with you. What's it like?
It's sort of proper grown-up adult sci-fi. It's a bit sort of a claustrophobic psychological thriller. Very much like a chamber play as well, sort of just 3 of them in it.
OK, let's have a look.
Do you have a name?
Yes. Ava.
I'm pleased to meet you, Ava.
I'm pleased to meet you too.
Do you know what the Turing test is?
So that's Alicia Vikander looking slightly less beautiful than she did in Testament of Youth.
Doesn't she? If you can pull off that look, you know you're good looking. You know, the film hinges on those scenes there between Donald Gleeson and Alicia Vikander. He's taking the Turing test, which, you know, he's trying to see if he can work out that if if he can work out if she's a robot.
And it's Alex Garland who wrote The Beach that directs
and
this.
28 Days Later. And you can tell he's a writer as well, because every scene has this cliffhanger in many respects. It's almost like a soap opera, and it kind of sucks you in and gets tighter and tighter. Thrilling finale, a
you liked it?
Finale. Yeah, I did like it. You know, it's one of those films you have to settle down and really put your mind to. You can't sort of be flicking through your iPad or reading the paper while you're watching it. But yeah, it's worth a look. But, you know, it's sort of proper adult sci-fi. This isn't Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the best science fiction, really. Makes you think.
Oscar Isaacs is also in our next film, A Most Violent Year, and David Oyelowo, and we heard from Jessica Chastain.
Yeah,
and we've had them all. This hasn't been Oscar nominated, and Jessica earlier was saying that she couldn't quite work out what got nominated, what didn't, what the game was. I mean, do you agree? Is it something that should have got a mention?
There's been lots of chat, hasn't there? There's always sort of films with Oscar buzz and build-up, and sometimes they don't come through. You know, Selma with David Oyelowo was the other one we were all talking about. But, you know, when you look at the categories this year, I think Jessica Chastain potentially really should have had an Oscar nod. It's not the strongest year for female roles, is it? But, you know, like she said herself, it's no rhyme or reason between these things. She didn't get the nod. And we move on, Lucy.
Well, she didn't look too distraught, did she?
I'm
Thank you so much. Next year, maybe. And that is all for now. Coming up on next week's show, Oscar-winning director Stephen Daldry talks trash, his BAFTA-nominated foreign language film. And star of The Killing, Sophie Grabol, tells us about her chilling new drama, Fortitude. See you then.